What is up? Welcome to the Existential Stoic podcast. Do you find yourself like unhappy, maybe depressed, maybe, negative a lot, or just wishing your life was better? You're in luck because today we're going to talk about how to live a good life on this quick fix. I'm Danny, and my buddy Randy. What's up, Randy?
Yo, Danny.
Do you feel like you're living a good life?
It depends on the day and
Yeah,
100% on my mood at the moment.
yeah,
But I would
right.
say as I've gotten older, yes, it has gotten better. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, me too. I think a big part of that, like, I think, you're right, though, as you get older, because I think a big part of that is just starting to live your own life, right? Not looking outside for all the answers and instead looking within, as they say.
If you
Nice.
don't if you don't go within, you'll go without.
Oh, that's a good one too.
I
Man,
know, right?
sayings are the best, aren't they? They give you like all this information in a compact little form.
I know. They're like, if it's a saying, it's got to be true.
Yeah, most of them are. A lot of them are, at least close. All right.
hmm
So we're gonna each give you three tips for how to live a good life. I'm gonna start my week. My first one, and I know we talked about this before, but figure out your values and live according to your own values. So I think this is crucial and like really crucial. But so often, like I think most of us when we start out, we go to school, we get indoctrinated, we get socialized, we have families, friends, all this pressure, and we adopt values from everyone else except for ourselves. And we don't really know what we actually value. And until you know what you value, you can't live a good life because you're going to be living somebody else's good life. So that is like the first step, I think, is getting clear about like what matters to you.
Hang on, Danny. Are you telling me that my good life is going to be different than your good life?
Yeah, right. Like at least in some content. I mean, the basic structure maybe will be the same, right? But like, God, it's got to be different because I mean, I like different things than you
Well,
do.
I mean, that's such an important thing to point out that I think gets glossed over so much because everybody thinks the good life is, you know, a huge house, a bunch of
Right?
cars with car payments, some kids, a model wife, and vacations down to some island every year. And
Yeah.
maybe it might be, but it might also not be.
Well, it's funny. Like I've said it before. Like people idolize people like Musk and stuff, and like I know for a fact I would not be happy. Like if I mean, even if I forget the rest of his life, which is forgetting a lot, obviously. But if you just traded places with him in like terms of like his work and money, like I would not be happy doing that. And I know that. Like so I think you have to know yourself, man. I have to know a value because your good life is gonna be your life. That's what matters.
Absolutely. Good one. So my first one for how to live a good life is actually differentiate good from pleasure. I think this is something that derails so many people, myself
Yeah,
included, because I'm like,
yeah.
I want to live a good life. How much pleasure can I have? And then it just goes off the rails. Um, so like learning that a good life, sometimes, actually a lot of times there's pain and there's things that you don't want and being uncomfortable that are part of a good life. And at least for me, the definition of a good life is like the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Like you mentioned, determining what your values say a good life should be, and then the progressive attainment of that. And in doing it, it's going to hurt a lot of the time. It's going to suck a lot of
Yeah.
the time. You're not going to want to do it a lot of the time. But as long as you're on track, uh, that's good, as opposed to just the pleasure filled life. Because, yeah, you can go on like a bender having a whole bunch of pleasure, but eventually the pleasure is going to end, or you're going to become numb to the pleasure and it's not even going to be fulfilling anymore. And then you're going to be in a really bad way.
No, I think it's so good that you pointed that one out because that is like a crucial one, and I think it's one we do forget a lot. Like, because we make that mistake of saying the good life is the happy life, right? The happy life, we tend to think of it as like just pleasure, and so you get this hedonistic ideal, right? Of like, oh, I just need to pursue every pleasure, and like really, if I just had enough money, I could just do whatever I want, party all the time. It's like you could, but like there's no substance either, right? There's no like meaning. There's no underlying importance or value to your life. And like you said too, I think the other crucial thing you pointed out was like a good life is not going to be a perpetually happy, comfortable life. That's like one, not that exciting, and two, it's not realistic, and three, there's no growth or anything. Like a good life's going to evolve. There's going to involve overcoming and obstacles and struggle. It's also hopefully you have friends and stuff that you love, and people are going to die and things are going to happen. So it's about handling all that stuff too. So I think that's a really good point. I like that one a lot. Um, my next one is don't take yourself or things too seriously. And I think this is important because I've been thinking about this a lot because like I think this screws me up a lot. Like something will happen and like, I focus on it and like I make it out to be a way bigger deal than it is, or I imagine like it like means way more than it does. And like I can particularly remember back like when I was struggling, like in the past, when I was depressed and stuff, like everything seemed so significant, so real. I was taking myself way too seriously, even how I felt too seriously. And I think sometimes you just have to like realize that it's just life. It's just things that happen. Sometimes, yeah, there's gonna be good, there's gonna be bad, but like you can like kind of get perspective by looking at things differently and sometimes just laugh at yourself and see that things aren't as important as you're making them.
Yeah, that's a great one because I get caught the same thing where something will just like set me off. And then if I'm fortunate enough to get some perspective, I'm like, hang on, like in the grand scheme of things, if I live to be 100, there's still a whole bunch more years to come, and even that is a speck in like the length of the life of the universe and all that stuff. So really, why am I getting all bent out of shape over this? Yeah, that's a great one.
Yeah.
My next one for how to live a good life is pick your habits. Because at least I'm of the opinion, I think Aristotle said something along the lines that our habits are what define us. If you look at who you
Yeah.
are today, it's because of the habits you've had. And if you want to change, you're going to have to change your habits. And so if you want to have a good life, you can't have habits that are bad for you. Like this is something that it boggles my mind because I get trapped in it all the freaking time. It's like it's super simple, do stuff that's good for me and stop doing stuff that's bad for me. But it's like the hardest thing
Sounds
to do
easy.
in practice because the things that are bad for me, like they feel so good at the moment. It's like I heard some dude saying the other day that like he's like, whenever I go on a diet, I know one thing. If it tastes good, spit it out.
Oh my God, it's funny. Yeah, but it's so true. I like that, the habit thing is really important too, because like, when you think of habits, like you mentioned Aristotle's like the formation of who we are, our character. And that goes back to like my first one too, of like knowing what you value, right? Knowing what's important to you and like tailoring your life that way. And I think you're right. Like if you don't have the habits, you won't have what you need to be consistent over time, right? You won't have sort of that built up sort of, I guess you could say almost like reserve of character to get through moments where it is difficult and to stay on course. And I think, yeah, habits are super helpful. And I think I noticed in my own life, the more you cultivate them, it's like it gives you like a nice baseline. It's like even when things are bad, you still know what to do. You still have that sense of control. Things don't feel totally out of control, and you still kind of have yourself centered. So you can still kind of like deal with everything, I think, in a way more like healthy way than if you didn't have those habits. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like good habits are what's gotten me through some crazy stuff recently. And it's just it's like what you said. It's like having the foundation underneath your feet where you're like, hey, I know things aren't going great, but I know that this stuff is good for me. I can just do it like I do it every day and, get through today.
Yeah, I think that, it's like, because I think that's what they do, right? They provide that sort of that foundation because without it, like everything is difficult. You have no real clear way to handle it, and it gives you like it just makes things easier. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Um, my last one is pretty easy, but like just don't give up too. I think if you want to live a good life, and I think the reason why I included this one was I was thinking back to like when I was really depressed and stuff. Like that seemed like, it always felt like, like there was no point, right? But I kept going anyway. I think if you don't give up, you can always change. This is life, right? You always have the opportunity to change yourself, to change the world around you, to change what you're doing, your geography, whatever. You can make so many changes. So you have to start with the small ones and you have to put the work in. But as long as you don't give up, things will improve and you do see improvement. And I think that's what's helped so much too, is like once you start on the path to trying to live a good life, you just start to see things getting better. Your outlook changes, your mental, perspective and attitude changes. And it just, it does get better. And I would argue good at times, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point because like a lot of people get caught in a funk because they feel like they've given up before, or they stopped trying, or whatever it is,
Yeah.
and they let that define them. But it's like if you're still breathing, you still have a chance to not give up. You can just keep on going today. And a lot of things in life, there's no solution to them. You just got to endure through them. You just got to get
No.
through it. Like that's it. You just got to get through it.
Dude, a lot of things there's not even like necessarily a specific end. You just keep going. Yeah.
Hmm. Absolutely. So my last one is something that Marcus Aurelius says. So he says that like all the things that we want in life by some circuitous route, we can have right now if we'll just do four things. And this includes the good life too. It's let go of the past, have faith in the future, love what is, and act right. You do
Yeah.
those four things and you can have it all immediately right now. All the stuff that first I need to get $1 million and then I gotta be a
Yeah.
CEO and then I gotta buy a mega yacht and have a beautiful wife and all this stuff, move down, spend going around the Greek islands and all this. It's like, no, you can
Yeah.
have it literally right now if you just let go of the past, have faith in the future, love what is, and act right.
It's funny too. I think like, yeah, Marcus Aurelius is a great place to go if you're looking for this kind of stuff. But it is funny because it's like I think we do all of us like have this like we talked about this before. We all like have this information, we like know it, but like we just fail to like use it. And it is the
Mm-hmm.
truth because I think like we so often like we're like, oh, my life sucks. I want my life to be better. I want to be happy. And what do? We do the wrong thing. We look outside of us. We pick weird goals like, oh, I'll be happy when I have $1 million. I'll be happy when I get this degree. I'll be happy when I have that job. And it's like instead of like actually thinking about like how can I be happy now? How can I actually be happy with myself, with who I am, with the because frankly, like I can get all that stuff, but if I haven't changed anything, I'll probably still be miserable because I'm still me, and my
Mm-hmm.
misery is gonna follow me along with everything else.
Yeah. Dude, it's crazy how fast it makes a difference too. Because I have those four steps written down in my journal. And so like sometimes in the morning I'll be in a bad mind state and I'll just be like planning how to get myself out of this and like, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do that, and then I'll do that. And then
Yeah,
I end up reading that thing and I'm just like, oh yeah, let go of the past, have faith in the future. Love what is. Ah, done. Feeling great. All right, don't need to do all that
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. It's funny. It's like live in the present. Stop being like, and that's what so many of us were like living like we are like so much influenced either by the past or future that we're not even like here. You know.
Mm,
Awesome. Do you want anything else? Good.
that's all.
All right. So there you have it. Some tips for how to live a good life. Hopefully you guys like it. Check us out on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. Please like, subscribe. Please share it with your friends if you like the podcast. It helps us out a lot. We will be back later this week with a full length episode. Until then, though, later, Randy.
Later, Danny.